Topic number 4. Development of social and political systems. Pre-colonial Africa had many different forms of politics and governments, and such a variety of politics and governments was closely related to the level of economic organization and production. Village-style government with a council of elders and a village chiefs predominated in hunting, gathering, and small agricultural societies. Centralized governments with monarchical oligarchic politics capable of collecting taxes, regulating commerce, and mobilizing armies were common in intensive agricultural societies with a crafts manufacturing sector. Egypt, Nubia, Ethiopia, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai were examples of the kingdoms and empires with centralized governments. Some empires and kingdoms were noted for their large towns, small to medium-sized cities. Many of these cities were trade and government centers, but some were renowned for educational and culture. For example, the city of Timbuktu in present-day Mali not only sat on major trade routes, but it was also home to the University of Sankore, which was renowned as one of the high intellectual contents of the medieval Muslim world. But regardless of level of economic organization and production, much political power in most societies rested in family or kinship groups. By 100 and 500 AD, most of African societies and Egypt and East Africa in particular had established permanent settlement. They consisted of hunters, cultivators, pastoralists, and mixed farming. 4 types of social and political systems emerged in Africa. These are 1. Kinship or clan organization, 2. Age-set organization, 3. internship organization, and 4. state organizations. Let's start with kinship or clan organization. Before going further, let's see the question first. The question reads: explain the meaning of kinship or clan organization. So here we are required to give the meaning of clan organization or kinship organization. What does it mean? It means that kinship refers to a group of families in a tribe who share the same common ancestors. A person's kin may include spouses, children, brothers, sisters, cousins, parents, uncles, and aunts. Several clans constituted a community, but it means a tribe. Examples of clan organizations in East Africa, such as communities formed in areas like the coastal areas of the Indian Ocean, were Pogoro, Makonde, Mwera, Yao, Matumbi, Ngindo, and Indamba. In most of clan organizations, communities lived in communal way of life by sharing means of production, land and tools. Means of production, that is land and tools, and distribution of products. Each member of the community was given a piece of land to cultivate, and the family members provided the labor required during cultivation and harvest time. This system was dominant in permanent settlements areas. Here is another question. It says, explaining the political organization of a kingship or clan. Clan heads. The clans were led by clan heads. In most cases, the clan heads were chosen from among the clan members. So these came from the clan members. Clan heads controlled the major means of production. They distributed and appropriated land to the clan members. These clan heads also chose spouses for young men and girls and arranged marriage for them. Clan heads presided over religious ceremonies in a community. They settled disputes among the clan members. So once the conflicts rose in the community, the clan heads had to solve them. They protected clan ethics, norms, and rituals which governed the society. Clan elders. The elders formed the council of the clan. The council of elders was made up of wise old men from the community. So the wise ones were considered as the clan elders. Elders helped the clan head to settle disputes over land. Elders helped the clan head to preside at religious ceremonies. Elders also helped the clan head to declare war. So once the conflict rose up between the clan and the other societies, so the elders helped the clan head to declare war. Elders helped the clan head to ensure good relations with neighboring communities. Elders also acted as spokesmen for the community and making decisions. Remember, there were two types of clan organizations in pre-colonial Africa. So, number one was matrilineal clan organization. Number two was patrilineal clan organization. So let's start with matrilineal clan organization. In this type of clan organization, women's children belonged to her clan. A husband moved to his wife's family. Clan heritage based on the mother's clan. Uncles had to make all important decisions concerning the children and nephews of their sister. Examples of communities practiced matrilineal clan organization were Makonde, Makua, Mwera, Zaramu, Luguru, and Yao of Tanzania, as well and Kamba of Kenya. The second clan organization type was patrilineal clan organization. In this type of clan organization, the children belonged to their father's clan. A wife moved to her husband's family. Clan heritage based on the father's clan. Children bear the name of their father. The husband had to pay bride price in order to marry a wife. Examples of communities practiced patrilineal clan organization were Chaga, Nekusa, Sukuma, Pare, and Imeru. So, excuse me here, it looks matrilineal, but it was supposed to be patrilineal. So that is a typing error. This is a map where the clan organizations were formed during pre-colonial Africa. If you see the map, so This is the map, so you can see the communities that we have mentioned here. Another type of social organization in pre-colonial Africa was age-set organization. Here is the question. Explain the meaning of age-set system. So, the meaning of age-set system says, age-set organizational system refers to social organization whereby a group of people whose age falls within a certain limit of age and sex are defined in a certain way. Although many pre-colonial African societies practiced this system, it was more dominant among the pastoral communities such as the Maasai and the Karamojong of East Africa, Hausa and the Fulani of West Africa, and Khoikhoi of South Africa. A few agricultural communities like Kalenjin of Kenya and the Nyakyusa of Tanzania also practiced age-set organization. Here is another question. Explain the social, political, and economic organization of the age-set system in East Africa. So, socially, age-set system was organized this way. There were two groups of Maasai, that is, the pastoral Maasai and the agricultural Maasai. At the age of puberty, both boys and girls were circumcised. Circumcised men were the community's warriors, that is, Morans. They lived in their own special areas for about 10 years. There were roles for women and for men. Men defended the community and took care of the cattle, while women took care of the children, looked after the home, and prepared food for the family members. The Maasai had a religious leader known as Olaibon, who presided over religious ceremonies, blessed Morans who were going to war, and prayed for rain in times of drought. They used to conduct ceremonies like birth, naming, circumcision, and death ceremonies. They worshipped God. Political organization. By the 19th century, the Maasai had adopted a new kind of leadership under the Olaibon. The Olaibon was both a religious and political leader. The following is the arrangement of political organization and responsibilities among the Maasai during pre-colonial Africa. Women. Women constructed houses. They stayed at home with children. They prepared food for their family. They milked cattle. They took care of households. Children. Children stayed at home with their mothers. They assisted in household chores such as cleaning the homesteads and food preparation. They were not directly involved in production. Youths. Youths looked after livestock. They were grazing livestock, tending calves, and milking animals. They were assisted by women. Morals. The Morans defended the herds of cattle against raiders and wild animals. They also defended the entire community as trained soldiers against enemies. They raided neighboring communities in order to increase the number of livestock. The Morans also traveled far with their herds in search of pasture and water. Lagons. The group of Lagons were divided into further groups. The first was junior elders. They made day-to-day decisions in the community. These were junior elders. They gave directions to the warriors on what was to be done. Another group was elders. They controlled livestock and all properties on behalf of the whole community. They enacted norms and ethics to govern the society. They were top overseers of all spiritual and political matters of the community. They were regarded as retired producers of the society, but their ideas and skills were highly appreciated because they were the experienced ones. They were allowed to perform religious duties. They also made rulings during disputes. So once the conflicts rose in the society, elders used to solve them. They also made political decisions on behalf of the community. For example, they made decisions on whom to raid and when. Senior elders. These senior elders were allowed to perform religious duties. They made rulings during disputes. They made political decisions on behalf of the community. They controlled livestock and all properties on behalf of the community. They enacted norms and ethics to govern the society. They were top overseers of all spiritual and political matters of the community. They were regarded as retired producers of the society, but their ideas and skills were highly respected as well. Economic organization. Here we are using the Maasai because they were the one who were known well for exit organization. So the economic organization of the Maasai is that the Maasai were mainly nomadic pastoralists. They kept large herds of cattle, goats, and sheep. As the season changed, they moved from place to place in search of pasture and water. So the main economic activity of the Maasai was pastoralism. They gathered vegetables, roots, and fruits from the forests. The Kwavi or Loiko Maasai grew some crops such as millet and sorghum. They exchanged milk, hides, cattle, etc. for iron items like oars, arrowheads, swords, ornaments, spear, etc. from the prairie. The Morans raided neighboring communities in order to get more cattle. Here is the area or the map of the area where the Maasai can be found in East Africa. So just to see, you may find the areas where these Maasai lived by that time. And this is the example. If you see these are the children, and you have the middle, the Morans, and here you find the elders. So the elders are just sitting, but the Morans are well equipped according to their duty. Another type was internship system. Internship system. Here's another question. Explain the meaning of internship. Intern comes from the word utemi, which means opening up of new land. Utemi was the name given to the leader who organized the activities of opening up new land and controlling the people. By 1800s, there were more than 300 internships in Tanganyika. The communities lived in several self-governing chiefdoms called Ntemi. The ruler of each Ntemi was the Ntemi. Ntemiship began among the Nyamwez by 1300 Anadomia. It later spread to Sukuma, Kimbu, Ugogo, Usangu, Bena, and Uhehe. Ntemiship occupied the central part of Tanzania, especially Shinyanga and Tabora. One became Mtemi because he was a founder of the locality or was chosen by a council of elders. Choosing a person to become Mtemi depended on three things. 1. His wisdom. 2. His courage. And 3. His experience. Here is another question. Explain the organization of Mtemiship. So, this is the organization of Mtemiship. Politically, the first was Mtemi. Some examples of Watemi were Mirambo, Misiri, Isike, Nyunguyamawe, and Fundikiro. Mtemi had the authority to declare war or make peace depending on the advice given by the Council of Elders. Mtemi also enforced proper use of resources such as land, water, and forests for future generations. Mtemi also settled disputes such as murder, treason, witchcraft, etc. in his community. So, he was the religious leader. He offered sacrifice and performed religious rituals on behalf of his people. Mtemi also oversaw communities' food reserve. Wanyampala. The Wanyampala selected a new Mtemi based on his wisdom, courage, and experience. They could remove Mtemi from power if they felt that he was unsuitable for his position. The other were Ngawe. Ngawe was the head of the council and the ritual officer. Ngawe was Mtemi's bodyguard. He assisted Mtemi during ceremonies, took care of the sacred objects and ceremonial dress of the Mtemi. Ngawe also assisted the elders to organize the divination, which was done to pick a new chief. Minule. Minule was the tribute collector and tax collector. Watwale was the army chief and ensured the security of the community as well as supervised armies. Teko, he was the deputy army chief and head of the secret service. Ikoma was the information officer and disseminated information to Mtemi and other community members. So at the lower were the subjects. These were the citizens. Social organization. Mtemiship was socially organized in this way. Mtemi was regarded as a holy man. Each Mtemi had many wives, but the senior wife and the second wife were of great importance. Each wife had a separate homestead, so polygamism was common among the Watemi. Ntemi's mother was one of his main advisors. So the ritual officers were called men of the chief's court or Banyikulu. So these were the very important people among the Watemi, the ritual officers. They assisted the senior wife in killing a terminally ill chief. So they also helped to organize the chief's burial. Economic organization. The Nyamwezi were farmers, long-distance traders in East Africa. So Ntemiship depended on trade. And the Ntemi received tributes from traders passing through his chiefdom. Tribute could be in the form of salt, gold, cloth, cowries, guns, glassware, etc. Ntemi could also collect tribute from his agricultural subjects in the form of grain, livestock, and labor power. Ntemi could also collect tribute from hunters in the form of lion skins, leopard skins, and meat. Ntemi could also collect tribute from hunters in the form of craft items like cabins, etc. So these were the sources of economy among the Ntemiship. Here is the question. What were the factors for the rise of Nyamwezi Kingdom? The case study here we are dealing with is Nyamwezi Kingdom. So the factors for the rise of Nyamwezi Kingdom were Ngoni invasion. The Ngoni invasion in western Tanganyika made the Nyamwezi people to unite in order to resist Ngoni attacks. The Ruga, another factor was the Ruga. This was a class of mercenaries. The class of mercenaries had emerged in central Tanganyika in the middle of the 19th century due to Ngoni raids and slave trading intensification. So the Ruga rose up due to two factors: slave trade and Ngoni invasion. This group was paid to fight for prominent Nyamwezi Watemi, for example, Nyungu ya Mawe and Mirambo, who helped to build their kingdom by using these Ruga. Another factor for the rise of Nyamwezi Kingdom was the expansion of local trade into regional trade or long-distance trade. This saw the emergence of wealth traders like Mirambo, who made effective use of the Ruga. The fourth factor was the entry of Europeans into the coastal to interior trade in Tanganyika. This introduced new trading partners to Nyamwezi traders who joined together to effectively resist Europeans' pressure to stop slave trade. So the rise of Mirambo as a trader and leader was another factor for the rise of Nyamwezi Kingdom. He used his influence to unite the clans of Nyamwezi land. Another factor was the use of the gun and gunpowder by Mirambo's soldiers in making the weaker Watemi submissive to his rule. So he conquered the weaker kingdoms. This is the area in Tanganyika where Ntemiship was dominated. So, as we have mentioned above, you can see the area, this area to the middle is where the Ntemiship was spread during pre-colonial Africa. And this is the picture of Ntemi Mirambo. The fourth social organization in pre-colonial Africa was a state organization. So the last social organization in East Africa, in the pre-colonial Africa, was a state organization. Here is the question. It says, explain the meaning of state organization. Here is the meaning. A state is a territory governed as one political unit. So it is a territory which is governed as one political unit. In pre-colonial Africa, there were two types of state organizations. So the first was centralized states. Centralized states were the communities that were ruled by chiefs, kings, and queens. They met as a result of power of one powerful family to control other clans due to dominance of wealth and political power. So once the certain family succeeded to become wealthy and powerful, so it became the control of other clan societies. So villages were connected with a large kingdom or chiefdom. Some examples of states that existed during the pre-colonial Africa were Egypt, which is in North Africa, Nubia and Ethiopia, and Axum in Northeast Africa, Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Yoruba, and Mosi in West Africa, Zimbabwe, Swazi, and Zulu, South Africa. Bunyoro, Buganda, Karagwe, Ankole, and Toro in East Africa. So, kings or chiefs inherited power from their fathers. In centralized states, there was no separation of power. Chiefs or kings held socio-economic and political power. They could get advice from councils of elders. Some examples of African kings during the pre-colonial Africa were Mansa Musa of Mali, Songhai Ali of Songhai, Nyabangu, Suna, and Mutesa I of Uganda. Mutesa the first. Here is another question. It says, appraise the factors which gave rise to the centralized states organization in pre-colonial Africa. So, how these centralized states rose? So the factors for the rise of these centralized states were, first, presence of iron technology. The presence of iron technology in the states enabled people to make weapons and to make iron tools. Weapons were used for conquering other states and for self-defense, while other tools such as axes and hoes were used for agricultural production. Control of trade. The communities which had contact with trade activities with outsiders were able to get weapons, horses, and tax, etc. Mirambo strengthened his state by making sure that coastal traders paid tax, guns, and gasoil. The weapons Mirambo got were used to force neighboring communities to surrender themselves to his empire. Military conquest. A powerful kingdom was conquered and overthrown by a new group of rulers who established a new kingdom. For example, the kingdom of Mali was replaced by kingdom of Ghana in such a way. Another good example is Enyamwezi kingdom under Mirambo. Availability of enough food to feed the population. This was possible because most centralized states involved in agriculture and they had introduced permanent settlement. Another factor was good climate and fertile land with reliable rainfall. So this attracted people to establish permanent settlement and population increased. People could also produce many crops which in turn assured enough food for the people. Another factor was strong leadership among the leaders. This led to the rise of centralized states in pre-colonial Africa. How? So these leaders were able to unite their people. Some leaders who succeeded to unite their people successfully include Buganda leaders like Kyabangu, Suna, and Mutesa the First. Another factor was migration. Some people migrated to other states and brought with them the new technology and skills which were used to expand and strengthen the new society concerned. The size of kingdoms. The size of kingdoms which were small in size, such as Buganda and Ghana, were easier to organize, administer, effective, and to defend them. This was contrary to the large kingdoms which, like Bunyoro, where effective control was impossible. Here is another question. Explain how centralized states were organized socially, economically, and politically. So, socially, centralized states were organized in this way. They were characterized with dense population. Sometimes urban areas or city-states like Sofala, Kilwa, Mombasa, and Lamu in East Africa, Oyo, Ife, Ilorin, Ibadan in West Africa. These had decentralized systems of government. Centralized states prevailed in settled societies. So where the societies lived in permanent life, so it was possible for establishment of centralized states. Economically, centralized states depended on trade for their rights. Therefore, Most centralized states were in areas that had close contact with the coast, and decentralized states took place in agriculture. So they depended on two things: one, trade; two, agriculture. Clans had to pay tributes to the monarch. Politically, centralized states had one overall leader. They were led by chiefs, kings, or queens. There was centralized authority in decision making among the centralized states. So, centralized states authority was responsible for solving disputes, organizing armies, presiding over religious ceremonies, apportioning land to people, and controlling trade, as well as controlling production. So here the political power was rested on few people, particularly the kings or queens. Centralized states had a tendency of hereditary transition of power. So the elder son of deceased chief or king inherited position of his father. Villages were connected with a large kingdom. There were a council of elders from all villages for each kingdom who advised the chief or king on different matters of the kingdom. There was no separation of power among the centralized states. Remember, so note that many centralized states fell down due to poor leadership and loss of important source of power. For example, Songhai declined in strength due to the decline of trans-Saharan trade. This is the map of Africa, and it shows the distribution of states, centralized states in pre-colonial Africa. So you may find that there was a wide spread of centralized states in pre-colonial Africa. So the second type of state organization in pre-colonial Africa was the non-centralized states. Non-centralized states, also known as the decentralized states or stateless communities or egalitarian communities. It is believed that numerous pre-colonial African communities were stateless. These were the societies that did not have well-defined and complex systems of government. Villages were not connected with a large kingdom or chiefdom, so this is contrary to the centralized states. Some examples of communities of the centralized states, non-centralized states during the pre-colonial Africa were Sukuma, Makonde, Masai, Chaga, Jie, Kikuyu, Taita, Nuer, who are in East Africa, Igbo, and the Kuu, West Africa. But for the case of Sukuma, it was just some of them, but many of them used the Temishipu. Here the question: appraise the factors which gave rise to the non-centralized states organization in pre-colonial Africa. So, how or why these non-centralized states rose during the pre-colonial Africa? Here are the factors. Number 1, small size of population and geographical area. Areas where non-centralized states existed were small in terms of population and geographical area. Areas with scarce population such as Makonde and the Masai were difficult to unite people under one leader, so there was spread of people. They were scattered into various places, so they could not live under one area, so it was difficult to control them, and they had to lead themselves independently. Another factor was the pastoral way of life among some societies. The pastoral way of life encouraged some communities to be stateless. This is because they used to move from one place to another regularly over large geographical areas to ensure that their livestock were in good condition. Therefore, it was difficult to control them. The difference in origin among community members. This hindered direct rule to communities, where the members of the communities derived their origin from different clans and ethnic backgrounds. A non-centralized states system of government could rise, such as the Abaruhya of Kenya. Here is another question in this reads: explain how non-centralized states were organized politically, socially, and economically. So the non-centralized states socially were organized in the following ways. They were characterized with small population and geographical area, and they prevailed in unsettled societies. So these societies were not settled in one place. Village elders held social, economic, and political power. Community members were normally from different clans and ethnic backgrounds. Elders controlled community regulations. The communities were nomadic in nature. So these societies were nomadic in nature. Economically, non-centralized states depended on pastoralism for their lives. Non-centralized states had no one overall leader. They were led by clan elders. There was separation of power in decision making among the non-centralized states. So how the separation was that village decisions were made by headman and a council of elders that selected the headman. So the decisions of the village in non-centralized states were made by headman and a council of elders. There were separate political units who ruled themselves independently. That's why we have said they were not connected to the large empire. They were also non-centralized states had no tendency of hereditary transition of power. Here we are looking at the political organization. Villages were not connected with a large kingdom. they developed two centers of power in the single state. So we can say here there was a high democracy compared to centralized states. If one authority handled military power, the other one handled religious power. So there was separation of power. And lastly, in the Council of Elders, there were representatives of groups. The heads of families represented their families in the village council. So the heads of families were the representatives of their families. So dear students, this is the end of the topic number 4 for Form 1, and it was prepared by Sir Luca N. Jetile. Enjoy the study. Thank you very much.